Just when I thought I couldn't find my way out, yeah, I searched the God in me to find my way out. I know it can seem way out, but the Creator flows to and through me from way out. I'm talking way out, yeah. See, if you believe in the God in you, it's a better place. Creating the force and the power to live a better day. Just know that love and joy and peace is one in all of the same space. That you were chosen just like God. That's right. Only you can make the change. Shine your head at you. Shine so bright from darkness to light. From darkness to light. Yeah. And you'll find your way out. Yeah. Oh, it won't seem way out. Yeah. The power of God will flow through you from way out.
Yeah, time to take you to the awesome like world of existence and pure will. Grows darkness, take the minds of people over. Vultures hunt for the blood of young soldiers. Time of the end of this world is right now. See truth is iron, break chains of bondage, destroy the blindness. As a sun, now you're rising now. Grows darkness, take the minds of people over. Vultures hunt for the blood of young soldiers. Time of the end of this world is right now. See truth in Zion, break chains of bondage, destroy the blindness. As a sun, now you're shining now. There's a dark eclipse forming to a Voltron. Demon in misty darkness, absorbing screams of families bleeding. Entities are natural enemies of energies, spitting out Mother Nature, menstruated spheres and infinity. Battle with Armageddon, light and shadow, fight for life that lies within the circumference of endless bliss. There's nothingness, transcend mind to timelessness. So evil ones lose their way, lost unknown of a dimensional Sephiroth, where space-time doesn't exist, known as a Keter of Ezizabad. The holy army of repattering that shatters memories to continue cycles of divine sparks that's reincarnated back into physical arcs. So Elohim can spark either lightning in the dark, form an image and likeness. Mind attack mind, and one is unblind. Our raiders and traders, the Rabbi HaMoshiach is our savior. The sorry daughter, former of my mental makeup. Visions of oneness sustain my anger that lurks in the bottomless pit of our satanic strangers. Violence is sharp as a deadly razor, a venom that's dangerous. When piercing the brain image, your body breakdown is vicious. Your life caught in sand is quicker and your essence is now ascending to another motion of emotion. Your memory is now the logo and stories of old ones showing photos. Grows darkness, take the minds of people over. Vultures hunt for the blood of young soldiers. Time of the end of this world is right now. See truth is iron, break chains of bondage, destroy the blindness. As a sun, now you're rising now. Grows darkness, take the minds of people over. Vultures hunt for the blood of young soldiers. Time of the end of this world is right now. See truth in Zion, break chains of bondage, destroy the blindness. As a sun, now you're shining now. That death be a penalty on phony MCs who can't produce a hip-hop degree, cause lacking soul chemicals in their genes. I see images of demons producing semen of false creeds to take my soul, body, mental, so my temple can inhale the wicked.
All right. Welcome. This is Alchemizing Energy, and I am your host, DJ Genesis. And today we have a really great show for you today. Welcome to the stage, Prince Charlotte Dean, aka Mighty Hebrew. Can you guys hear me? Mighty Hebrew, welcome to the stage.
Hallelujah. Shabbat shalom.
How you feeling, DJ Genesis?
I feel pretty good. So we got the part 2 of the Hebrew cosmogenesis, the truth about the misconception of the Black Hebrew Israelites. This is the part 2 of the series. If you guys did not watch part 1, you can see it on the channel. Please outline what was covered in part 1 and where we're going to be going with part 2, so we can just get an idea if anybody didn't get to see part 1.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I give all praise and honor to Yahweh, the supreme, intelligent, powerful one of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, those striving for righteousness' sake. I say into the family, Shabbat Shalom. It's definitely an honor and a privilege to be on Akamai's Energy for part 2, the mighty Hebrew truth about the misconceptions of the Black Hebrew Israelites. We dealing in Hebrew cosmogenesis and Hebrew anthropogenesis. Part 1 was basically an introduction of who I am, my walk in this life as a Hebrew Israelite sovereign national for the last 34 years, me coming up in the Hebrew Israelite culture from a teenager. I'll be 50 July 17th. So, I'm about to be a Zakwain in the next few months, an elder in the community. I'm a prince appointed by the late Prince Asiel ben Shaliach ben Yisrael, second in command of the Kingdom of Yah in Damona, Israel, Northeastern Africa. The first in command was the late Ben Ami, second in command, the late Prince Asiel, third in command, the late Prince Dr. Shaliach ben Yahuda, founder and the original dean of the School of the Prophets Institute in Damona, Israel, Northeastern Africa. So these were some of my major master teachers. I sat under the tutelage of the late Shot Greer, Prince Asiel, excuse me, Prince Asiel for the past, might have been like 30 years. So I got direct, tutelage and skill from him. Prince Kazari Dar ben Yisrael, founder of Temple Kifraim, Saw Rabbah ben Yisrael, Elder Ishkael ben Israel, Rudolph R. Windsor's brother, Cole Windsor, Robbie Cole Windsor, Moriel ben Yisrael, Adon Yehoshaphat ben Yisrael, founder of the Jerusalem Chronicle newspaper, and the list goes on and on. So I sat amongst some real great leaders, the ones that are not here, may they rest in completeness within the Azuletic world of existence and pure will. So like I said, the first one was just giving you an introduction about who I am, certain misconceptions that we heard as it pertained to, Hebrew Israelites miscalled Black Hebrew Israelites. So this part, I invited one of my children. I have 7 children, 3 wives. One of my children, Prince Adonai Zadok, he's going to be on here with me on this second part. So it feels good that my children they were born and raised in this culture. All my sons were circumcised on the 8th day by Rabbi Baruch ben Yahuda, spiritual leader of B'nai Adat, Hebrew Israelite congregation out in Brooklyn, New York. So, it's definitely an honor and a privilege to even be on Akamai's Energy. We got some powerful interviews that's coming. I want to give a shout out to Zakwain Dawid / David Nelson, the founder of The Last Poets. He will be on Akamai's Energy. Once I sit down with DJ Genesis, he's actually ready. So we definitely going to get that popping. He's listening now. Shout out to Zakwain Dawid. I'm just ready to get this thing popping because there is, a lot of misconceptions about Hebrew Israelites because of social media. And social media, it does play a role in how, people view Hebrew Israelites. You see the brothers on the street corner, and it's no shot against them. That's, everything is usable and reasons behind what is done. But that is not the monolith of the Hebrew Israelite culture. The Hebrew Israelite culture and heritage is much, much, much more broader than that. You know what I'm saying? And it's a disservice for people to view the Hebrew Israelite culture just people, Esau's the devil, King James only Bible, Apocrypha, and the book from Babylon, the Timbuktu. by Professor Rudolph R. Windsor. Shout out to Professor Rudolph R. Windsor, very powerful book that has influenced the Hebrew Israelite nation worldwide. But it's more to that. So I developed a system known as Hebrew cosmogenesis to give the cosmological understanding of the Bereshit, or the Genesis, going back 311 trillion, 40 billion years ago, which is the first root epic, or the first day, to the seventh root epic, 100,000 BCE. We're going to definitely get into this with this major PowerPoint presentation. Also, I want to give a shout out to the Scorn Black Man podcast, who gave me permission to use these videos at any given time on any given platform. So shout out to Hilltop, shout out to brother Yahuda, Ben, all them over there at the Scorn Black Man podcast. So let's get it cracking. Let's get this thing, started. Hallelujah.
But if you're asking me, do I have a white so-called Jew friend who is not in that line of Semites, so I can't be anti-Semitic? Did you know that there are Semites in Africa? Did you know that there are Semites in Asia? That there are some Semites so black until they're blue black, purple black, and beautiful? These are people using a political term, anti-Semitism, when it's really anti-Kemitism and anti-black program.
But nevertheless, there is true Hebrews. There's a true people of the Most High that is scattered throughout the nations of the earth this day. It is not whom that many people believe they are, such as the so-called Jews in the nation state of Israel that we so see before us right now. I would interject that the true biblical Hebrews are the so-called African-American people that are scattered abroad throughout the world. It is very important that you understand who the true Hebrews are, because that end time prophecy, lots of it, surround these individuals. Now, please understand that not every single black person is a true Hebrew, but it is those that are under the curse of Deuteronomy 28.
Shalom, shalom from Israel. This is Ola, the daughter of Jethro. And I just heard that you black people that was stolen from Africa to America, that you don't know who you are, but you are the children of Yahweh, the children of Israel. And I'm telling you, you have to come back to your homeland, here to Zion, to Jerusalem, because us, the Gentiles, we do need you. We need you to come and pray, because you are our saviors. You're the one that was chosen by Yahweh to live in this land, not the Jewish people, it's you. You were stolen from Africa, they deceived you, they told you that you are slaves, but you actually the children of Israel. And it's time just to come back. Come for your people, come back for us, come back for the whole Gentiles, because only you gonna save us. So please come back to Zion.
Which are an ancient community of the Israelite exiles. Now, this is, for the most part, the general consensus of the largest people in Africa. You do have different groups like the Agudaya in Uganda who aren't saying they're from the lost tribes, but have joined the people of Israel in the large amounts of numbers. One other location I'd like to, actually, before I go into this other location, what's fascinating is, which I speak about, is the transatlantic slave trade. A large percentage of it actually came from Igbo territory. So these Igbo today in Nigeria, who are practicing Jews, numbering the 40 million people with customs and traditions, doing circumcision on the 8th day, were the same exact people brought to the Americas on the transatlantic slave trade. Now, if someone goes to Times Square in New York today, you'll see African Americans dressed in Israelite outfits and yelling at people saying, "You're not the real Jews, we're the real Jews." And so most people saying, "Well, you guys are kooky, you just made this whole thing up, you made up a religion and an identity." Actually, no, they are the blood descendants, most likely, of the people who, from Israel, were brought from Africa to America. So it's very fascinating.
The wisdom of Solomon in the Apocrypha in the 5th chapter talks about how Jacob, how the heathen is going to be amazed and confounded when they realize that the so-called black man is that chosen line.
In America, there was a slave trade. And a lot of the slaves, a very high percentage of them, came from Western Nigerian ports. And in America today, you see a very large movement of African Americans who say that they're the real chosen people, that they're the children of Israel, they're the Judeans. So what are they just trying to create an identity for themselves because they were slaves, or is there really something here? And the answer is most likely there is something there. And most likely, maybe that they were the original Israelites, and maybe that the Jewish people today who are white Caucasian people came in a little bit later on.
I just wanted to come to you to impart some knowledge onto you about who the true biblical Hebrew Israelites are. Bloodline-wise, they are the so-called African Americans.
Brothers and sisters, blacks of America, it's you. You are the true Hebrews. You are the true Hebrews from the Bible. America gonna do everything, gonna invest as much money as it has, and gonna fight as much wars as they can, gonna invite as much weapons as they can just to hide this away from you. Gonna take Israel, gonna bring white people here and to tell you these are the Jews, gonna kill you, gonna kill Arabs, gonna mistreat white people like this guy, just to tell you this lie that you are nobody and we are the Jews with all the history and so on. It has been deleted, your history. You don't know who you are. Don't forget about it. This is why. Because America has been taking your history away, never to find out that it's all about you. I'm telling you this, please. I don't ask you to come to Israel to start a revolution. I'm just asking you to start thinking this way, to believe me a little bit.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're tuned in to the Scoring Black Man podcast. I'm your host, Hilltop Zadok Israel. I got my co-host in the building, Brother Don Yehuda, Fire Talk Radio podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on both channels. And I got special guests, man. You know what I'm saying? We ain't going to call them a guest. We're just going to call them family. You know what I'm saying? The mighty, mighty, mighty Hebrew in the building, back with another banger part 2. In the hot seat, you know what I'm saying? And we got a special guest, you know what I'm saying? He's the young heir of the mighty, mighty Hebrew in the building, you know what I'm saying? The young prince, the son of the mighty Hebrew. And this is mighty Hebrew, the Hebrew Anthropogenesis, I think I pronounced it right, Cosmos, and part 2 of the mighty Hebrew in the hot seat. Y'all boys unmic yourselves and shalom to everybody.
Shalom, everybody. Shalom. What's going on? What's going
on? Hey, we back.
Back in the building.
We back.
Back in the building. Somebody got like a little back play back there.
I think when my son is here, he might have a type where as though we got to mute our mic so we can all hear him.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. If you want to say something real quick, Bang, go ahead. You can say something, son.
Shalom, shalom, family. I just want to put this out there. I know my father is a very humble man, and I just want to address this. The inspiration that I get from just listening to him is amazing, and I genuinely mean this. I believe that he is phenomenal at his scholarship, and he's an amazing scholar. Today I'll be listening more than I'll speak, so I can learn something. That's really about it. Thank you, and I'm honored to even be in all of y'all presence. I appreciate y'all for having me today, and I thank y'all very much for having me.
Well, we appreciate having you, young brother. It's always really inspirational to see the youth come out and support the truth, and you know what I'm saying, it's gonna be young kings like yourself that's gonna help spread this message to the youth up under you, you know what I'm saying, and your peers. So it's always good. You're always welcome to come on, and yeah, you know what I'm saying, your daddy gonna get I guess I'm gonna let Brother Don Yehuda do most of the question asking. We're gonna do the hot seat first, and then we'll have some questions afterwards. If there's any questions from the people in the audience or whatever, Brother Danya Huda, you can go ahead and start asking some questions. I know you probably had some ready or written down or whatever, and I might have some questions out.
Yeah, so I guess my question is going to just be based off of what we kind of went over last show, so that way we can segue into the information you're going to go over today. So just getting right into it. Last time when you was on here on the hot seat, you were going into the evolution, which was kind of a de-evolution, so to say, of the Elohim coming from the light and then going through the different phases of, I believe, what the Sanskrit word would be the Manu or the Adam Kadmon, down into what we have today, which is the modern man and woman that we have here. Could you explain just briefly so we can get a idea for those who may have not seen part one? And if you haven't, go back and check that out on the Scoring Black Man podcast, a very powerful informational show with Prince Charlene Dean bringing the information. Could you kind of highlight just how the root races go as far as the first root race down to the fifth root race, which I believe you stopped at the Aryan, which is the fifth root race that we at right now?
Absolutely. Hallelujah. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Ahad. First and foremost, I give all praise and honor to Yahweh, the supreme, intelligent, powerful one of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, those striving for righteousness, they all over the planet Earth. I say unto the family, Shalom Aleichem. It's definitely an honor and a privilege to be on the Scoring Black Man podcast. As usual, shout out to Hilltop, shout out to Don Yehuda, and a special shout out to my Bane, my son, my flesh and blood, Prince Shar Adonai was a doc, is in the building. Hallelujah. Born in the Hebrew culture, all that. So it's definitely an honor. And out of all my children, he's the very first one to, be on the podcast with me.
Welcome to the chat, Prince Lewis. Was there something that you wanted to say or comment, or are you just here to watch?
Yes, I'd like to ask some questions later on. I've just joined in, and I'm glad there's a part two. I said a quick hello yesterday, but I got a bit more time today, so I just want to observe the teaching. And I got one or two questions I like to put before the panel, especially my man Mighty Hebrew, who I'm a big fan of. So I'm just tuning in to be to ask some questions later.
Okay, for sure. All right.
And this is the first podcast because I do know how these social media streets are. So I really try to keep my children,
right,
away from. But my son, he's a very interesting spirit, very similar to me. Even the way he dressed, he has a very eccentric way of dressing, like a GQ kind of vibe, you know what I'm saying? So, and his Emi's mother was just talking to me the other day, and she was like, boy, that's you. So my son for a very long time, been doing his own little independent research as well. And, and he's adamant in studying the Bible and, just all different types of things. So, but I definitely want to dedicate this show right here on record to my son, and to the rest of my children that's not here, but I'm focusing on him because he's actually here. But getting to your question, for one to understand what is called devolution and the descension from ascent from the Elohim embodying themselves in human form, one must have a thorough understanding of cosmology, what I define as Hebrew cosmogenesis, and anthropology, what we define over here at the Mighty Hebrew University in Tanzania, East Africa, as Hebrew anthropogenesis. Now, what are these things? Hebrew cosmogenesis is the cosmological understanding of the first pages of Bereshit, which later has become referred as Genesis. Now, the way we've been reading these scriptures, and mainly because we're focusing on this Elohim embodying themselves in what theosophists call root races. We call them over here root epics, because sometimes that term race can be misconstrued into superiority complexes versus inferiority complexes. So we're going back to the one, meaning the original understanding of this cosmological and anthropological thought. So when you read it in the Bereshit or the Genesis, you have to first understand that if we're talking about the days of Moshe, Moses, then we know that there were influences of the Hebrews towards the people of Kemet, and the people of Kemet having influences towards the Hebrews in a sociological environment. Okay, so when we brought forth our ancient Hebraic script that stems back to an ancient vibrational language known as Zenzar, we'll get into that as we develop. Well, this script, or this pictorial script, became influenced by a pictorial script in Egypt known as Imtunetu or Medunea. So when we look at the Sinaitic pictorial Hebrew, which that's what archaeologists call today, there were a lot of mining caves in Kemet that became unearthed in 1905 by a man by the name of Petrie.
Oh wow! So we're getting some people up here tonight. Okay, so welcome to the panel, Zion Warlord. Welcome to the panel. So we're gonna have some questions. We're gonna have a good discussion tonight. It's a Friday night, and people are coming on to the chat. I think that they're already ready. They're ready to load up on these questions. This is about to be a good one tonight. So tune in, guys. Welcome to the panel, Zion. What do you want to say?
Blessed love, you know what I mean? Big shout out to Prince Charlandine, the brethren not, you understand me? You know what I mean? Highly high, yes I just wanted to come in, chime in, you know what I mean? I see the brethren here, and you know what I mean? Just want to give blessings, you know what I mean? Swoosh gang, baby. You already know what it is.
Swoosh gang.
Yeah. Shalom.
If you have any
Shalom,
questions,
shalom, war child.
Yes, I don't have any questions as far. I love the brethren's teachings. You know what I mean? I just listen to the brethren. You know what I mean? And he's intricately tied into the Rastafari community there in Tanzania. So Charlandine is a gift, to the community as an elder, as a teacher, as a rabbin. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to show my love. You know what I mean?
okay. Well, as time goes on, if you have any questions, just say pause, and I'll pause it.
Yes,
So welcome to the panel. All right, let's go.
And Petrie was a well-respected Egyptologist. And Petrie Finders found what was known as the Sinaitic inscriptions. You get a scholar by the name of Pultovich back in 2016 that translated these sculptures that they found in these caves. And the book is known as the world's oldest language. And he translated these carvings, and what it demonstrated was the Hebrew oppression that took place, because we have in record Yaakov or Jacob coming into the land 1876 BCE. We see the death of Yosef or Joseph, and we see the birth of Moses, roughly around 1526 BCE. And we also see this oppression, which was 210 years of our forefathers and foremothers in Egypt. And we see this exodus taking place 1446 BCE. To say all that is to say, we have to look at the era of writing at that time. So it wouldn't be what we know as the Paleo-Hebrew. It would be the Sinaitic inscriptions, because this is what we see the slaves writing in. So having that understanding, what was the understanding at that time of these symbols? And what we have done at the Mighty Hebrew University is we transferred them symbols to the Tanakh, taking away the block Hebrew and going into the most oldest manuscript writing of the Hebrews of that era, and then start translating. So now when you see the word Yom in Hebrew, which in the abstract, it means day. But in the Hebrew Sinaitic pictorial Hebrew, you see three hieroglyphic symbols, Hebrew hieroglyphic symbols. You see a Yod, you see a Wav, and you see a Mem. The Yod in ancient Sinaitic Hebrew is symbolic to an outstretched arm, gripping on something. Then you see the Woe, or the Wa, which is an image of a nail pressing down on something. Then you see the Mem, or the waters, or water waves. So when you say Yawam or Yam, now you're defining something that containeth and holds life. So Yawam or Yod in ancient pictorial Sinaitic Hebrew means that which containeth life. So each day in Genesis is not a literal 24-hour, 7-day-a-week day, but it's a root epic. So you have the first containment of life, the second containment of life, the third containment of life, the fourth containment of life, fifth containment of life, sixth containment of life, seventh containment of life. Each containment of life is defining a certain amount of years. So the first containment of life will start roughly 311 trillion, 40 billion years ago, till you get to the seventh containment of life, which is 100,000 BCE. We define these things by the way of what is known as the Yuga cycles, because when we understand Proto-Hebraic thought, Proto-Hebraic ethnicity, we will travel not to Mesopotamia, but to the Indian subcontinent known as Tomal, in this area where a group known as the Yadavas centralized themselves. The Yadavas was a Proto-Hebrew subclan amongst a greater body of Hebrews. Yadava is the ancient Sanskrit word for the Hebrew word Yehuda, Yehowadah, Judah. Abraham being from the Yadava, we see that Yaakov, Jacob names his fourth son Judah, Yehuda, Yehowadah, Yawadah, after the pre-existent tribe from which Abraham came from, the Yodavas. So having that retrospect, and then we also have classical scholars, Philo, Prodicus, Josephus, Homer, Herodotus, etc., taking the ancient Hebrews back to the Indus Valley. And during the Ramayanian War, you see the Hebrews going west into Asia. So you have two Hebrews in classical record, Eastern Ethiopians, Western Ethiopians. The Eastern Ethiopians were known as the Yadavas that sat in the Indus Valley, and they stayed there and later on became known as Dalit, which in the Sanskrit word means untouchable, which goes back to the Hebrew root word da, which means to make thin or to crush. Then you have those that go into Western Asia Minor, Mesopotamia, Canaan land, Kemet. They became known as the Western Ethiopians. This is why even when you see Yehuda, right? But we also see a Canaanite woman with the feminine word Yahudin. or Judith, right? So that shows us that this word Yahuda existed pre or before even the birth of Judah. So when you look at these root epics, you're seeing the Elohim time traveling by the way of Merkaba light or portalization. And in the process of this Adam Chachma, or this Elohim embodying themselves in human form, the residue of our cosmic bodies that we didn't need became elements of the universe from the multiverse. The solar system that you see is a byproduct of your cosmic self. So the sun, the moon, the stars, the 9 planets, all of them are residue that the body didn't need to solidify themselves or ourselves in human form. So when you're seeing this unfolding within the Genesis process, you're seeing the unfolding of our mind from the subjective realm into the objective realm, to which you get Israel today. Now, the devolution that you was talking about, Don Yahuda, is a product of our embodiment in human form, as Psalms chapter 82 says. But we started to mix with subspecies. Stop, DJ Genesis. Stop, DJ Genesis. Stop for a second. Now, this is how you break down Hebrew cosmogenesis. See, this is why I have to come out now, because there's too much madness going on in the community. There was a time when our understanding was very sacred within the FBA or Black American, whatever you want to label us, community. You know what I'm saying? There was a respect level that the Hebrew Israelites had back in the 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, et cetera, et cetera. But now, because of the social media outlet and this marginalization of the Hebrew Israelite thought being monolithic when we know it's not, okay? We have to stop this. All people on the planet have thoughts that can cause forms or illusions of separation. There's no nation on the planet that's monolith. So if that be so, why are these preconceived questions to Israelites based on monolithic ideas? All Hebrews don't view the things in the Tanakh the same. So we have to come from out of that social nicety, so to say, or this cliche that all Hebrews believe in the 12 tribe chart. All Hebrews are basically Old and New Testament. All Hebrews are this. No. And I'm not debunking any of my Messianic brothers and sisters, because there's a portion for them. But for us to not Torah only, there's a portion for us. At the end of the day, Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism is the key. Why? Because it supersedes any type of divisional conflict. You have Hebrew Rastafarians, 12 tribes of Israel, Hebrew Israelites, Messianic Israelites, Talmudic Center Israelites, Kabbalistic Center Israelites. But at the end of the day, certain nationalistic principles supersede all that. And all nations understand this. Y'all think all Chinese people believe the same thing? If you do, that's dumb. That's dumb. But what they have in common is nationalism. This is why they'll never let a nigga in. There's only one black man, and I forgot his name. I just watched the documentary on him. FBA, a Foundational Black American / African American, Tribe of Judah brother that got a dojo out there, and I know War Child may know who he is, and he out there in Chinatown, and he was down with that Chinese gang known as, I think what they call the Black Shadows, or what do they call War Child, if you hear me. Are you there, War Child? Or did War Child leave? Oh, he dropped off. Well, what's your name? Just did it. Queen's Flip. And he was down there in Chinatown interviewing some of, some of Chinatown's gangs out in New York. And there's this one black man down there out of the whole Chinatown. He got a karate school out there. And he's the only one that we know, because Chinese people, they don't just let you come up in a thing. And this is what we have to do. I'm trying to bring back the sacredness of our culture, because right now it's being torn throughout social media. This has to stop. A lot of this is coming because, and I'm not pointing out fingers or nothing, I'm just saying what it is. It seemed like certain people are being defined as scholars in our community, and they're being chosen on purposely to make Israel look bad, because there are scholars in our community that y'all don't even know about that will burn this whole social media down. You see what I'm saying? And we had demonstrations of this on Alchemizing Energy when we had the dean of the school, the prophets of Damon in Israel, Northeastern Africa, come on Alchemizing Energy. Shout out to Sar Dr. Kazliel Ben Yahuda. We had Kabbalistic scholar / Hebrew / West African scholar, Dr. Benzi D. Hamagan, come on. We had the founder and the editor of Jerusalem Chronicle newspaper come on here, Adon Yehoshaphat Ben Yisrael, from out of Memphis, Tennessee. The foundation of the concept of what is known as, he defined as, Israelite nationalism, which he was my first mentor in the concepts of sovereign nationalism, which helped me to develop Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism. And before I get back to this, a question was asked, Mighty Hebrew, do you believe that Jesus is black? No, I do not acknowledge that Jesus is black. Now, if you ask me if Moray Yeshua Bar Yosef, was he quote unquote black? Yes. Jesus is really Caesar Borgia, the sixth son of Pope Alexander. You see what I'm saying? Anybody know about Caesar Borgia? He was the second son of Pope Alexander, the sixth of Rome. So that's Caesar Borgia.
That's who that picture is of Jesus, that fake picture.
Yeah, that picture. As a matter of fact, you get a chance, show that. You could just type up Jesus and interconnection of Caesar Borgia on Google, and you'll see the image. Michelangelo and Da Vinci and all them, they were drawing pictures of the Borgia family. They are the ones that overthrew the Black Hebrew, Black Ishmaelite empires of Europe during the Dark Ages, because we ruled the Moors. You see what I'm saying? Which they label us as Moors. From the 5th century to the 15th century. That's why I said yesterday in the first part of this presentation that 1492 is a significant number in our history, because this is when you see the last stronghold of the Moorish Israelite, Moorish Ishmaelite empire throughout Europe and Grenada. Right? Y'all know this history.
Sorry, but I've been told he existed at the same time as Machiavellian and those people in Italy that time. And their family.
You talk about Caesar Borgia. That's correct. And they got, matter of fact, on HBO is one of them, they got the show called The Borgias. And they got a series called The Borgias that you can type up and you can watch. It's a series. And they show you throughout the whole movie, the series, how the Borgias started to whitewash as those in ISUBK focus on a lot with the Russian icons and all that. It was known as the Renaissance.
Yeah.
And in the Renaissance, this is when they started to whitewash the images of the true Israelite and biblical characters. This has to be made clear. Y'all got to stop believing that these people that call themselves Jews are Israelites, man. We're not Jewish.
Yeah.
We're not Jews. Stop saying we the original Jews. Stop saying that. We are the original Israelites.
Amen.
12 tribes. Yehuda is just one of them. If you seen a brother from ancient times from the tribe of Judah or Yehuda or Yehowadah, however you want to pronounce it, they never called themselves Jews.
Judah, yeah.
They never called themselves Jews. This is where the confusion, we must separate from them. Period. We have to separate from them. We have to stop saying we the real Jews. They the upsurers, this, that, the third. Yeah, they the upsurers, but we got to stop using this word Jew and Israelite as if they're the same. And many scholars in the Afrocentric Black conscious community know that Jews are not Israelites. They know this, but they purposely intertwine them so the children of Israel who lost their identity, as Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 36 and 37 say, I'll send you and your king into a strange land which neither you nor your fathers have known. And there you will worship idols, even wood and stone, and I will make you an object of horror, a proverb and a byword amongst the nations. So when you try to compare the Israelites with the Jews who claim that they kept record, that they never lost their heritage, this is in total contrast and contradiction to Devarim or Devarim, Deuteronomy chapter 28, 15 to 68, because we're talking about a people to a no people. Period.
Sorry, Mighty, sorry to cut you, but do you think that some of them do that because some of our people in the, for instance, the Christian world are not smart enough they don't have the depth of understanding that you and I or you have, so therefore they just do that, just to let them know, listen, they're trying to be our people. Do you think that's maybe why they do that?
That's partially true. And what I mean by my statement is you do have some that's very sincere in what they believe in as Israelites, and they may believe that we are the original Jews because of the lack of understanding. You know what I'm saying? But then you got those that they're fully aware that we are not Jews, we're Israelites. And the truth is that them Hispanics, that them Native Americans, they not our people, man. Now we in the midst, we were in the midst of them people. You see what I'm saying? Those that of the persuasion, by the way, of the so-called DNA marker group, E1B1A, they are the dominant Israelite gene, period. And one can say, well, how can you prove that? The Jews got DNA. No, they do not have there's nothing in existence in the database of any ancient Israelite DNA blood.
Yeah.
So, hey, I wanted to show you guys this and get your opinion on this, because this is something that just happened just recently. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but you know about Mike Huckabee?
Yeah, I know about that when he questioned that dude that took the DNA test over in Israel.
And not only that, so check this
Carlson
out.
went to Israel to interview the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. And for those of you who don't know, Mike Huckabee has been involved in U.S. politics for a very, very long time. He ran for president at least twice. My first memory of Mike Huckabee is that he ran, I want to say it was in 2007, 2008, in the Republican primary. And he very famously said, we should replace the Constitution with the Bible. I'm not kidding. He said, God's law is perfect and man's law can't measure up to God's law. We have to replace the Constitution with the perfect law of the Bible, with God's law. And that, at the time, people, holy shit, like that's an insane thing to say. We're a secular country. We have separation of church and state. We also believe in the Enlightenment and rule of law. And he's like, no, the Bible, right? That's how crazy this guy is. He's also basically an end times cultist, where he believes in the apocalypse. He believes in the rapture. He thinks Jesus is gonna come down from heaven on a winged horse to Israel and kill most of the Jews and then convert the rest of them. And this is why he's a hardcore Christian Zionist. This is why. Because he believes in biblical end times, that they're coming, okay? Totally just gonzo mentally, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, no longer with us. Like, just brain not open for business. There's motherfucking figgy pudding in the place where his brain is supposed to be. Well, Tucker knows this about Mike Huckabee, and he actually grilled him pretty decently here. So there's a lot of crazy moments here. Let's start with this one. Take a look.
How much does it matter what Americans think?
Well, it matters every bit what Americans think. That's why Americans vote. It's why Americans have the opportunity to have free speech. We want them to have that.
Okay, so what percentage of Americans support a war with Iran?
I don't know. Do you know?
I do. I think it's around, I saw the numbers yesterday. I think it was like 21%.
Okay.
Is that enough to have a war with Iran?
We don't live in a world where you have a poll taken to find out whether our policy should be a particular direction. Because
I thought you just said that
that's
we
direct
vote.
democracy. No, we care deeply about it. But on the other hand, do we make the decisions of foreign policy and even domestic policy based on
We
what
care
the
deeply
latest
about
poll
it in
number
what
is?
sense? If we're ignoring it, then in what sense do we, quote, care deeply about it?
Well, I think we care deeply when we see there's a threat.
No, but about Americans' opinions. So you've got 350 million Americans. They vote. They voted in this last election on the basis, in part, of the promise no more wars. Okay? So now we're about to have a war, looks like. 80% of people are against it. In that range, let's say 70%, but nowhere near majority support for this war. And it's not direct democracy, but it is a form of democracy. It's representative democracy.
The ultimate form of democracy in our system, in a republic, because we're not a true democracy, we're a republic.
Exactly, right? It's a mediated democracy.
It'll be an opportunity for Americans to vote if they think that we've made the wrong policy decisions. I personally think the president is making the right policy decisions.
But I guess, but you just said it matters deeply what Americans think. And if the overwhelming majority are against
deaths in an urban war than any urban war of record.
Literally just a total lie. This is a genocide and an ethnic cleanse. Just lying, but Tucker's going to call him on it.
I didn't know how many civilian deaths there were. So how can you say that?
If you took Gaza's numbers, Hamas's numbers,
you said you don't know what the numbers are.
We don't.
You just told me that. Then how can you say it's a lower number?
But if you took the numbers that they reported, which is like 50,000, 24, 25,000 of those were actual warriors. How many civilians? If you took
the
all of their
numbers range from 120 to 78, those ones I just read, I don't know if that's real. I don't know either. I'm asking you.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, those numbers I've not heard, have not read. The numbers that I think are more reportable are somewhere in the 60,000 range.
Where do those come from?
From the Gaza Health Ministry.
Which is I'd never heard that before. I don't know what are the controls for that. And you said, well,
would you agree
that the U.S. military killed more civilians.
Would you agree that the real tragedy was that Hamas continued to force this war?
Hold on. You just once again said that the IDF is more humane than the United States military. You just said that. You said in Iraq and Afghanistan, the U.S. military killed more civilians than the IDF did in Gaza. You just told me that. I never heard that before. And my question is, how do you know that? What are those numbers?
And I'm trying to explain to you.
The one I thought you was going to play was when Tucker just interviewed one of them leaders over in Israel, and he was saying, "Well, won't you take the DNA test?"
Yeah, and he was. I know
that's what I thought. Yeah, that's the one I thought you was going to play because it aligns on what I'm talking about. Where I'm talking about these people saying that they are us, when in fact they don't need. The reason why he won't take no DNA because they're out of all the countries in the world,
because
Israel is the only country that they're not in the database.
Yeah,
they're not in the database. And they reveal, and the thing got to be, this has to be made clear. The DNA comes from something called the CMH, where they try to authenticate themselves as being the true children of Israel. The CMH means Kohen model haplotype or haplogroup. This was created by a man. Hold on for 1 second. Okay, hold on for 1 second. The doctor's name was Rabbi Yaakov Kleiman. And he developed this in 1997. And his objective was to show some type of ancient link with those that hold the Kohen name or the Hebrew name Kohen and Levi. So what he did was he went around the world that had that similar name or around the world when in areas that identified them. And with he found out there were certain frequencies that were more like the further they would go deep into Africa, the more the frequency was. So you talking about the more they went into like Southern Africa amongst the Lamba and different things of that nature. But the problem with this whole operation, right, is that they're only identifying blood type by the way of modern people.
Yep.
Now, we know that there was an incursion of Euro-Gentile powers that overthrew the Northeastern Africa, falsely called the Middle East. And they started to mix with the E1B1A Ishmaelites and Israelites that were indigenous to that land. They brought their J1 haplotype amongst the E1B1A. Okay, so they haven't, as of yet, produced any ancient Israelite blood. Y'all gotta hear me. They haven't produced any ancient Israelite blood to prove that they're Israelites.
Amen.
They only identifying themselves with modern day Middle Easterners that invaded the land.
Yep.
That has to be made clear. So these people haven't demonstrated anything, and that's why Tucker is asking this man for them to take a DNA test over in Israel. They can't take a DNA because there is no ancient Israelite blood for them to trace. They only can identify with modern people. So the whole DNA test, when you hear Afrocentric black scholars tell an Israelite, yo, go take a DNA test, prove you're an Israelite. They know that can't be done because anybody that know about biology and science know they don't have no ancient Israelite DNA, that blood that they taken from remains, right? Because once the blood hits the air, it becomes dead. This is why the scripture tell you that life is in the blood. Life is in the blood. So if there's no blood to prove that these people are Israelites, why we keep saying that these people are indigenous to the land? The same with the Palestinians. I'm not a Palestinian sympathizer, so I'm gonna make that clear because they're invaders too. And a lot of our people, when they get into a revolutionary mind state, they side with the Palestinians and they don't even know that the Palestinians are upsurers of the land too. And they are oppressing the black Afro-Palestinians. So let's not play these games and make it seem like these people and Hamas, let's talk about it. Hamas was created by Israelis. Hamas was originally a Jewish organization that turned cope. That's it. So anybody that know the ground history of Israel, they know it's multicultural. This is how you know people haven't been to Israel. They would know that it's it's more, quiet as it's kept, it's more black people in Israel than white people.
Okay.
This is facts. Anybody that go to the state of Israel, they will know. You go to Tel Aviv, you think you in New York City. You will see so many ethnic groups all over Africa that saying they Jews. Then you got the indigenous population, because we got the history from Sheikh Ahmed, who is an indigenous Bedouin Ishmaelite chief over there, that his grandfather is the ones that helped the Rothschild scalp out the land of Israel in 1894. That's a historical fact. That's why they created that Operation Moses, Operation Solomon, to fly Israelites from Ethiopia, because they knew they only did that to authenticate themselves.
PR.
That's what, them trying to recognize the Igbo, the Lamba, the Falata. They're trying to authenticate themselves into the framework of Israelite identity.
Well, they even wanted to be observers at the African Union, and they got kicked out recently. So they've always trying to put themselves in where they don't belong.
Yeah. So DJ Genesis, go ahead and play this part and then get back to the presentation.
I believe, and I agree with you as a Christian, that God promised this land from modern day Iraq to modern day Egypt to this people, the Jews, to Abram's, actually not to Abram's descendants, as it says in Genesis 15. Who are his descendants now, and how do we know who they are?
I think they're the Jews, and we know who they are because they've always been a Jewish people. There has
Stop
been
that.
an unbroken
Stop
line
that.
of Jewish people.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Stop it. Y'all don't hear what he just said. He said, I believe in all that. But I want to identify who these people are, basically, that this land was promised from Iraq to Egypt, meaning from the Great River Egypt to the Euphrates, from East Africa to Northeastern Africa. This is what this man is saying. And guess what chapter that he identified? He said Genesis 15:13. Why? Genesis, real quick. Post up there real quick, Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. I'm going to show you how this so-called white man is really identifying the blacks as the Israelites. You're going to see this. Listen, remember, the 15th chapter is what he's identifying with. Put up there real quick so that people can see Genesis chapter 15, verse 13 and verse 18. Watch this, y'all. Remember, he said the 15th chapter, he said, who are these people? And then that's when he's going to start questioning this man about DNA. So he already got in his mind that y'all are not the people of this land. Genesis, you hear me? Could you read that verse real quick, DJ Genesis, to the people?
Then the Lord said to him, know for certain that for 400 years our descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and that they will be enslaved and mistreated there.
For 400 years. Does it say for 400 years?
Yeah, for 400 years.
Now, remember, this man is saying, but we need to know who these people are that are being identified in Genesis 15. He's talking about verse 13. Now put up verse 18. Now put up verse 18 of the same chapter and read that verse. We drawing it out. We draw, because after you read this verse, then press play again to that man and watch this, y'all. Tell him on himself.
Oh, you said 15 verse 18? Because I don't think it goes to 17.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Genesis chapter 15, verse 18.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. All right. So when the sun had set and the darkness had fallen, a smoking fire pit with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the pieces. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abraham and said, to your descendants, I give this land from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates, the land of Kenites, Kenizzites, Cadmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Raphites, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites.
Thank you. So what it's saying by the Great River Egypt, the Great River Egypt is the Nile River. The Nile River starts in Uganda at Lake Victoria, which is a 4,200 mile long river that drops into the Mediterranean Sea. And then you got all the way to the Euphrates, which you're talking Iraq, where ancient Sumer was at. So he's saying from the Great River Egypt to the Euphrates, which starts from East Africa to Northeastern Africa, falsely called the Middle East. You also see this in Bereshit or Genesis, the 2nd chapter, with the 4 river heads. Basically, you have Eden, and then you have the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is from East Africa to Northeastern Africa. Eden itself is the whole entire planet. It's the whole entire planet. Now, we emphasize the continent, what is now called Africa, as Eden. But remember, Eden at the time of the manifestation, the land masses was one. So Eden was the whole planet. And the Garden of Eden was from East Africa to Northeastern Africa, falsely called the Middle East. We have the 4 river heads. So the point that I'm expressing is that this white man, this your Gentile man is saying, because the point of contention is, who are these people in the land of Israel? We want to know who the people are being identified in this specific chapter, Genesis 15, whose descendants were going to a strange land and be slaves for 400 years. And then after that, they would leave with great substance. We've seen in 2019 that it is a law, a commemoration of the 400 years that was passed by the hand of Donald Trump, okay, when he was president the first time, recognizing 2019 as the end of the 400-year captivity. 2019 is when you see an influx of the second wave of Israelites repatriating back to the land of the promise, as we see in Yeshayahu or Isaiah chapter 11, verse 11 and 12. The first wave was in 1967 when the repatriators from Chicago, Detroit, all of them left and created the kingdom of Yah and Damona, Israel, northeastern Africa. And we find that in Zechariah chapter 12, verse 7. We see this. So now this man is asking, who are these people that are outlined in the 15th chapter of Genesis? Who are these people? And who are you that are saying that y'all are the people of the land? And if you are the people of the land, then won't you take this DNA test? Watch what this man say. Press play.
Modern day Iraq to modern day Egypt, to this people, the Jews, to Abram's, actually not to Abram's descendants, as it says in Genesis 15. Who are his descendants now, and how do we know who they are?
I think they're the Jews, and we know who.
Look how when he said the Jews, he said, oh, hold up. I mean the descendants of Abraham. So he know, this man know that the Jews are not the people of Abraham. Because he made the correction. Go back a little bit, DJ Genesis, and then replay it. And then that's when the man is going to say, well, I believe it's the Jews. Play it again. Play it again.
Crack the human genome, we can do that. We've cracked the human genome, we can do that. We've cracked the human genome, we can do that. Who are the modern, yes, who are the descendants? So we know, and I believe, and I agree with you as a Christian, that God promised this land from modern day Iraq to modern day Egypt to this people, the Jews, to Abram's, actually not to Abram's descendants, as it says in Genesis 15. Who are his descendants now, and how do we know who they are?
I think they're the Jews, and we know who they are because they've always been a Jewish people. There has been an unbroken line of Jewish people, and they've lived in this land for 3,800 years. Sometimes not very many of them, because they were chased out all over the world. They were hunted down. They were almost annihilated during the Holocaust. They came back. To this day, Tucker, they represent, you know how many Jews there are in the whole world?
Please, I understand. First of all, the greatest genocide of Jews no one ever mentions was by the Romans, where they were literally banned from Jerusalem for 500 years.
Yeah, of course.
And it's all awful. And I'm opposed to all of that. I'm opposed to mass killing of anybody, period. I'm opposed to
hear you say that.
I mean it.
Yeah.
And I hope we can agree on that.
I believe that.
My question is, and it's not a bumper sticker answer, it's a sincere answer, how do we know? Because what you're saying is that certain people have a title to a highly contested region. They own it in some deep sense. So I think it's fair to ask, who are they and how do we know? So the current prime minister's ancestors weren't from here within recorded history. He has no deed. Bibi Netanyahu, on one side, his family's from Poland. They're from Eastern Europe. So how do we know that he has a connection to the people who God promised the land to, Abram's descendants? How do we know that?
Well, if you take the genealogies that come not only from the Old, but the New Testament.
Stop it for a second. So y'all got to understand, when the man said they don't have no deed, the only people now y'all got to understand what this means. The only ones that understand this is that people that really been on the ground in Israel. When you see the Bedouins in the southern Negev, such as Sheikh Ahmed and all them guys got deeds to the land that they own. Even the Israelite brother, what's his name? Over there, Hoshua Amaniel. Y'all know who he is, Hoshua Mariel. That's over there in Arad. He has a deed to his land, so they can't kick him off his land. He has a deed that makes him totally sovereign on that land. You have the government, which is the state of Israel, and then within the state, because it's supposed to be a secular country. And then you have the Sanhedrin, which supposedly deal with the religious aspects of Judaism. They are the ones that determine who's a Jew, who's not a Jew, who can come in by the way of halakha, conversion, aliyah, et cetera, et cetera. They control that element. But there's another element in the land of Israel, which is rights the land by the way of deed. And through the deed, it shows birthright. So when you go to Sheikh Ahmed's people over there in the southern Negev, his deed go back over 2,000 years. These are black people, man. And that's why they can't kick them out of the land, them people, because they was there before the Palestinians. They was there before your Jews. See, we talking now facts by the way of don't make me call Sheikh Ahmed. I know him personally. And he could throw his deed right on screen on alchemizing energy, just like that. Y'all don't know what y'all talking about. The people that reside in Israel now, they are upsurers of the land. See, what was going on, right? When many of the so-called Jews start coming in the land, they was giving people contracts, certain indigenous people contracts that they really didn't know the dynamics or what they was doing, to the point they was able to control the land by the way of deed. And this is why they saying they got a right, because before, Theodore, well, it was after Theodore Herschel, when he the one that came up, with the so-called Zionism, so to say, which he stole that concept from Prophet William S. Crawley and Prophet F.S. Cherry. They the ones that created what you will call Zionism or Messianic Zionism. And they took that concept from them slaves over in the United States and imposed political Zionism. You see, they imposed political Zionism until you get the Rothschilds. They the ones that scalped out the land through the Ahmed family, which were black Ishmaelites. Okay. And some of them, because of the deception of the Rothschilds, were giving away their deeds. And this is how they were able to argue with certain Palestinians about what rightfully belongs to them, because they were tricking the indigenous populations to sell their deeds to land, man. See, this is what's going on over there that y'all don't know about. Y'all think y'all think these people just came in the land and just took it. No. This is why they're still sitting there, because of the ignorance of certain indigenous, and I'm not saying they all ignorant. I'm saying there were certain tribes that did it for greed, and some people, they didn't know that they were being tricked into selling off their land. That's the same. Y'all got to look at it even the way they did in the United States with the Native Americans. Many of the Native Americans in the United States, they were selling their land through deed. That's why when Sheikh Ahmed, he can brag live on YouTube and say, here's my deed. I can prove that I was here before all y'all. And nobody never contests what that man say, because it's true. So how could y'all sit up here and say that the Israelites are white, the Ishmaelites are white, all these people, and we got indigenous people right now in Israel right now that's blacker than me and you with woolly hair, and they got the deeds to the land. What are you talking about, man? This makes no sense. Scholarship, fuck that. Let's go to the deeds of these people and see if they prove that. Remember, the man said, we have an unbroken chain of history. All right, so if you got an unbroken chain of history, then show us your deeds. Show us your deeds. You only can show us deeds that came in the 20th century. Show us deeds like Sheikh Ahmed and all them that go back 2,200 years ago, 2,400 years ago, 2,000 years ago. Show us. They can. That's how we know that they are not the people of the land, because they ain't got no fucking deeds. Excuse me for my language.
It's the first time I've heard of the deeds, Mike Hebrew. First time I've heard of the deeds. Very informative.
Right. Look it up. They got it from, you remember in the scripture, right? Remember when Abraham brought that cave? Remember for Sarah, our patriarch, our matriarchal grandmother?
Yep.
And you remember he did business with the Canaanites.
Yeah.
He created, it was through a deed. A deed can be like, let's say for instance, we in ancient times and you got a cave and I want that cave and me and you talk about it. You say, okay, give me 50 cattle and then I'm gonna give you this emblem piece as a deed to prove that this will always belong to you and your family for generation to generation. That's how deeds were in ancient times. And then it passed on until you get into the papyrus era. And then people start writing these deeds down, whether on stone, whether on sheepskin, whether with medallion pieces, whatever the case may have been. And that concept trickled down into the 1700s, the 1800s. Because you got to remember, during Dark Age Europe or Dark Age Africa, remember Arabic became the language of diplomacy. So because Arabic was the language of diplomacy, you will see, ancient deeds in Hebrew from the Ahmed family, and then you also see Arabic deeds. But all these deeds existed before the Europeans even came into Israel. So we know they're not the people. They have no deed. They have no blood. They have nothing. They have nothing.
And
y'all on this joke. Yeah, y'all on here on YouTube acting like they the people and we the upsurers. This is insane. Press play.
They own it in some deep sense. So I think it's fair to ask, who are they and how do we know? So the current prime minister's ancestors weren't from here within recorded history. He has no deed. Bibi Netanyahu, on one side, his family's from Poland. They're from Eastern Europe. So how do we know that he has a connection to the people who God promised the land to, Abram's descendants? How do we know that?
Well, if you take the genealogies that come not only from the Old, but the New Testament, you see that there is a historical connection through the entirety of the Old and the New Testament that details the Jewish connection to this land.
Does that include Bibi's family? How do we know that if his family
if they were
here,
scattered,
but how do we know it's the same people? Why is that crazy? If you say to me,
if they speak the same language, if they worship the same God, if they follow the same Bible, if they follow the same cultures and traditions, and they always pray next year in Jerusalem, and they pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and they pray facing toward Jerusalem, does that not give you a little bit of a clue as to who they are?
Let's go through those things, because I would like to have a rational. This is a conversation I've wanted. Bless you. Thank you for doing this. Let's just go through those things.
Okay.
So one of the things I admire most about Israel is they resurrected a dead language in 1948. Good for that.
Well, they really didn't resurrect it. It was existent.
Okay, that's a compliment. I'm not slighting.
No, but it is the first time in all of human history that a language has survived through this length of time. It's I would call it, you might not, but I would call it a miracle. One of many.
Okay.
That you can attribute to this
I
language.
think it's wonderful as someone who loves language. Netanyahu's parents did not speak Hebrew. Okay, they didn't live in this region. Netanyahu, the founders of this country, were mostly secular. Some of them were avowed atheists. They were not praying for the peace of Jerusalem. They weren't praying at all because they didn't believe in God. There's no genealogy linking their families to the people of this land 3,000 years ago. They're not. So how do we know, since they didn't share a language, they didn't share a religion, they had no religion whatsoever, how do we know that they had a right to come here from Eastern Europe and
but they were scattered.
Take the land?
They were scattered to Eastern Europe. They were scattered all over the world. There were many in Ethiopia. They were in Russia. They were in Poland. They were throughout Asia. Jews were all over the place, but they were still Jews. But they were still Jews.
Okay,
That's
so then
what
let
made
me
them
get to the nub of the question, since again, a lot is at stake, a lot of money is at stake. Land is very valuable. Israel has a lot of resources. By the way, if you're accused of a crime, you can hide here. That's a pretty good passport to have. It's a good thing, right? So who's entitled to it? I don't understand, and you're very discouraged in the United States from asking this question for some reason. It's a totally rational.
No, I'm not discouraged.
No, you're not discouraged. Yeah, others do. You're like the only person I can have this conversation with. Everyone else will be like, "Shut up, Nazi!" It's a foundational question. Are you speaking of an ethnic group or a religious group?
Well, I think you're looking at, for many people, it is religious. There are people who may not have a deep religious connection to Judaism, but they're still Jews.
Okay, so it's an ethnic category.
It is ethnic, but it is also religious. It is rooted in religion. You can't take it out of it. Now that means
then how can an atheist?
Well, I will tell you this: there are some people who say, "I'm Christian." They never go to church. They never pray. They never read their Bible. They don't tithe.
But they're not entitled to citizenship on the basis of that.
Well,
they're
but
not
I'm saying
entitled
they,
to.
They still call themselves Christian, even though they identify in that way.
Here's the difference. You're saying that people who have this identification have a deed to a huge chunk of land on the Mediterranean. Okay, so there's, it's a right. You keep telling me it's a right, and so it's totally fair to say, if you come to my house and say, "I've got the title to your house," I get to ask, "May I see it? Where'd you get it?" And that's exactly what happened here. People from Europe, Eastern Europe, came here, in a lot of cases atheists, and kicked out a lot of people who lived here.
Land.
Well, but
they did not just throw people out.
They bought a lot of land. There's no question about that.
They did buy a lot of land.
But they
The
also,
whole
in
idea of
1948, kicked out a lot of people.
In the war.
It was a war. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
want to
Okay.
relitigate the history. I'm just saying it's a fact.
Okay.
Including a lot of Christians. A lot of Christians wound up fleeing, and they lost their homes, and they've never been allowed back. And all of this was justified on the basis of this identity that is the ticket to the right that you keep referring to. So my question is very simple. I'm going to wait patiently for an answer. Does this right derive from religious affiliation or from genetics?
And I would say it's both. But I would also say that when you said the Christians were kicked out, Tucker, Christianity is growing in Israel.
Okay, but
and there is a big lie that goes out there. But no, let me finish this, because I keep hearing that Christians are really not treated well in Israel. That's a lie.
A surprising report from Israel today, where officials are taking seriously a recent upsurge in spitting and hitting attacks on clergy and the vandalism of Christian sites.
Yep.
Counting,
DJ Genesis.
you're counting about Israel proper, or are you
Stop
counting
that.
the West Bank as well and God?
DJ Genesis. Now type in. This is what you're going to type in. I want to give a shout out to Deshaun Greer, the ambassador of the African Israel, diaspora. Isreal Moore bin Yisrael. I want you to type in YouTube. It's only for 13 minutes, and it's going to coincide with this deed thing. Could you type in the hidden African roots of Israel they never wanted us to know? Must watch. Can you type that in real quick? This is for 90 minutes. Then we get back into my presentation, because it's going to connect with the question that he's asking. Because as he continues, we're going to come back to this, because he's going to then ask him to take the DNA test. And if they should take DNA and this, that, the third, and he's going to be like, no. So type in the hidden African roots of Israel they never wanted us to know. Press play. It's on mute. DJ Genesis, you got it on mute. It's fine. I can play it. This is my family. It's good.
In
You can
Israel,
play it. He won't.
obviously I've heard it a whole bunch from
Play it
both
all the way
ends,
from the
right?
beginning.
Some
Play
people
it from
would
the
say
beginning.
Abid
But
on
that
the
image,
Arab
that
Palestinian
image I
side.
need
Some
the
people would
people
say,
to see.
"Oh, welcome
Start
back to
from
the
the
page.
very
I'm your host,
beginning.
Isrealites Moore, the ambassador of the African Diaspora Collective,
All the
right
way.
here in Israel."
Yeah.
So I was thinking about something, right? And this is going to connect me to the video that we're just about to watch in a moment.
I need to stop it,
happens
Genesis.
all
Stop
too
it.
often.
You have to play it from the very beginning. There's a reason why I need it all the way at the beginning.
That's it.
Yeah, right there.
Hello,
Right
welcome
there.
back to the page.
Right
I'm your
there.
host,
Now, these are the original people. Stop it. Stop it. You see these people right here? Stop. These are the original people of the land. Before that was in North Africa and Jerusalem. This was in 1925. These are the original people of the land. Before Europeans, they got footage of this that they remastered. It's the original footage. They just remaster it. Press play. Shout out to Isreal Moore. Come on.
Hello and welcome back to the page. I'm your host, Isreal Moore, the ambassador of the African Diaspora Collective, right here in Israel. So I was thinking about something, right? And this is going to connect me to the video that we're just about to watch in a moment. It happens all too often where people residing here in Israel and other people in the region of North Africa and in this area are being told, people of African ancestry, right? Are being told, go back to where you came from. Go back to Africa. It happens at times from the Palestinian people or the people who refer to themselves as Palestinian or other Arab peoples. It happens also at times from the Ashkenazi Jewish side as well in Israel. I've heard it a whole bunch from both ends, right? Some people would say Abid on the Arab Palestinian side. Some people would say Kushi on the Israeli or Ashkenazi Jewish side mostly. And I was thinking to myself, but hold on, when people say go back to where you came from, go back to Africa, do they not know that Israel is in northeastern Africa? Are they not aware of the history that have caused the demographics of the North African countries to be transformed into a different demographic where now the people that you're looking at clearly are not the indigenous peoples of this region? Are they not aware of these things? And I said, possibly, they may not know, right? So we'll take the opportunity to help people to know. Let's watch this video first of all, and then we'll discuss it afterwards.
Now you could clearly see the footage that he's showing. You know what I'm saying? Just we could talk.
So what
while
we're seeing
she's
here
playing.
is basically
Now stop.
Israel and other North African regions, right? In circa 1925. This is from the IFU Museum in Amsterdam, right? In Amsterdam.
Wow. All black folks.
Right. Look, y'all. Look at this, DJ Genesis. You see this? These are the people that had the deeds to the land first, man.
The whole Africa needs to see this. The whole
See
Africa
that?
needs to
Look at that sister right there. Look at that sister, man. Come on, man. So we know. Look at the footage, y'all. Peep it. Look at this, y'all.
Is that a dome
DJ Genesis said it's going to be a powerful show tonight. See, we dealing with straight, unadulterated facts. There's no way of getting around this. Look at the landscape. Look at the people of this time that lived in these regions. These are the original people of the land, not the Palestinians, not the people that call themselves Jews today. No, you are the original people. Y'all seen when we first showed this. We seen the late Dr. Khalid Muhammad let you know we the real Hebrews. We showed people from all over the world,
So let's put
and
everything into
mainly
context
over.
because it's very important. You know, context is very important. So what we were just looking at is basically a color film, right, from the I Film Museum in the Netherlands, where they were showing or depicting the inhabitants of this region in the 1920s, right? Now, for some odd reason, people cannot connect North Africa to the remaining African continent. It's like you disconnected the entire north portion from the rest of the continent. So you're trying to give us the impression that the peoples, right, that reside in these two areas are totally different people altogether. They have no connection whatsoever. One portion are incredibly lighter, look more European, and the others are blue-black almost. One portion have, you know, their indigenous cultures and traditions and customs and languages and all of these things, but then the northern portion, they're all almost monolithic, right? The only reason why these things are this way is because North Africa has been, all of the North African countries have been known to be portions of the African continent that have been under consistent colonization. The entire African continent, absolutely. But North Africa, for a very long time, the North African countries have changed hands, right? So you had the Greeks, and you had the Romans, and you had the Persians, and you had the Mamluks, and you had the Ottomans, and you had the Christian Crusaders, and you had all of these peoples, right, foreign to the region, who, after they colonized the region, or colonized at least, you know, a significant portion of it, and they also imported their own people from other places in the world. And you also had a lot of, especially during the Ottoman period, you had a lot of Europeans who were actually brought in to be sex slaves for the Ottomans and other residents of this region, right? And so that's why you're looking at a very light-skinned people who are residing here in this region, right? Because this is an intermix of a lot of foreigners from a lot of other places who've kind of taken over this region almost. And when you look at the region, you believe that these people are the actual original inhabitants of the region, but in actuality, they aren't. They just are not. And the worst part about it is that people have accepted this notion in their minds that all of these North African countries are part of the Arab world. They cannot seem to decolonize their thoughts and understanding that if this is part of the Arab world, then that means that de facto, these lands are colonized lands under an imperial power who have come in and who forcibly caused the inhabitants of this region to accept their language, to accept their culture, to accept their traditions, to accept their religion, to accept an influx of their people from other places in the world. And now when you look at it, it kind of became, you know, a no-brainer. Yes, these people are North Africans. Yes, these people are original Egyptians. Yeah, but no, they aren't. And even in Israel, people really have this notion that Israel is historic Palestine, historic Arab land. And then they would even have the audacity to ask people of African ancestry, what are you doing there? Why are you there? Why don't you go back to where you came from? Why don't you go back to Africa? So let me help to frame this as well in terms of the belonging of Israel to Africa for people who don't know. Israel, this small portion, this small fragment portion of land, is part of North Africa. It sits on the African tectonic plate. Israel sits on the African tectonic plate. In terms of its belonging to the mainland of Egypt, the only thing that separates Israel and the Sinai Peninsula from the mainland of Egypt is the man-built Suez Canal. Now, this Suez Canal was built, well, they started to construct it in 1859, and they were finished in 1869. Most say that this was a better route towards the east, as opposed to going all the way around Africa. This should allow a quicker passage or pathway from Europe, from Asian countries over into the Far East, right? But nonetheless, even if you carve these things up or you build these man-built canals and whatever else, it still doesn't take away from the fact that this is part and parcel of the African continent. Now, for those people who may not know, right, the languages that are spoken here also are from a category of languages or a family of languages called Afro-Asiatic languages. These Afro-Asiatic languages are languages that are connected to mostly African peoples, right? And within the Afro-Asiatic languages, you have what is called the Semitic languages, right? This is a subcategory. In the Semitic languages, you have Hebrew, you have Gez, you have Amharic, you have Aramaic, you have Arabic. All of these languages are Semitic languages, right? But these languages, clearly you could be able to connect them if you're looking at it from the root, clearly connected to people of African ancestry. You say that the original inhabitants of this region, right, were Hamitic people, right? Or people who they refer to as Canaanites, right? I mean, because obviously we know that Canaan was a son of Ham, and we know the world has put forth this fabrication, right, of Ham being cursed by his father Noah, and as such, the sons of Ham, the children of Ham, were cursed to be dark-skinned people, which is absolute nonsense, obviously, because we know that the original inhabitants of the world, right? We know that civilization, people who began actually in the Horn of Africa, African people, obviously. So these were not European people who were cursed and then became African people. That's absolute nonsense, absolute nonsense. But when we're looking at the people of this region, right, it's important for us to be able to put it back in this proper context, because I, as an Israelite, I'm not out of place by being in Northeastern Africa. Now, some people will try, with all of these political terms to change, the original demography, right, or geography of this specific area, and to, try to give it different names, possibly political names that may take you away from the original, the originality of the place. And so you have names, for example, like the Levant, right? But people don't even have the idea. They don't even have the knowledge. They don't have the understanding of where did these terms even come from, because Levant is simply a French term that was coined in 1492. And that term simply means the area where the sun rises. And so because this is the East in comparison to where France is, then they refer to this place as the area where the sun rises, the Levant, right? That's just a term. The Middle East. The Middle East is a term also that became popularized in 1902. That was given to the region by a British commander. And it simply denoted where this area is in comparison to where the British are. And so the Far East, I mean, we're talking about a period of time where they say that the world, or that the sun never sets on the British Empire. So the Far East was also part of the British Empire. So you had India in the Far East. The West was where the British were. And so the Middle East, right, on the way to the Far East was this area, this region, Israel and all the other places under the British Empire. So this was the name that was given to this region as a political term. But again, that does not denote the originality of the inhabitants of this place. That does not change the geography of this place. That does not disconnect the place from the origins of it, in culture, in tradition, in language, in people, right? That these terms, you can use these terms all you want, but that doesn't change any of the originality of what this place actually is. So it was important for me to share this video with you all, because people have really taken on these political terms, and without even going deep enough and really trying to understand this, they just accept anything. They accept that all of North Africa is part of the Arab world. They accept that all of the people who reside in all the North African countries are the original inhabitants of the land. They accept the fact that Israel is historic Palestine, Arab land. I mean, they just accept anything without even doing the most minimal research. And so because people don't want to do minimal research, you can't force them to, but I'm going to continue to share this information with them. And I'm not going to share any sources or anything of that nature, because I'm talking about my land. I'm talking about my people. And it's not often where you sit down, you're having a conversation about your people, about your land, about your family. And in order for you to be able to confirm what you're sharing about your family, you need to have some external sources to be able to back up what it is you're talking about. If somebody wants to go and to do their own research and to find sources that could be able to give them a better understanding of the things that I'm mentioning in regards to my family, in regards to my region, in regards to my belonging to this region, then they're very much welcome to do so, because there have been a lot of people who've written about it. Anthropologists, historians, geographers, geologists. So this information actually exists. But I am just talking about my identity, my origin as an Israelite who is from Israel, right? Who has returned, whose family has returned to our ancestral homeland. And now I'm living in my ancestral homeland, but people from the outside are looking at me as if I'm a foreigner in my ancestral homeland, because I'm living in a land that has been conquered for so long by foreigners. And so because of that, they have now accepted the foreigners to be the original inhabitants of the land. I'm not taking it. Sorry, I'm in my land. I am here to stay. Israel is in northeastern Africa. And when you look at me, I am an Israelite. I am an original to this. I'm an original inhabitant of this land. I am one of those when you're trying to understand who are the indigenous peoples. So I am an indigenous person to this land. Despite what everybody else may say, it really makes no difference to me at all. That's all we have for today. Thank you so much for continuing to follow me on this journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment for me below. And until then,
give a shout out to Ambassador Isreal Moore. That's a close brother of mine. I've done a lot of shows with him. I was just on this show here some weeks ago. Powerful presentation. He was born in Israel. Remember, his family came by the way of the first wave of Israelites that left from Chicago and Detroit back in 1967. So, you know, and they were understudies of the late Prince Asiel and all them, you know what I'm saying? So he was born in Dimona. So he's a part of that community. So everything he broke down is fact. Now, and then, yeah. So
he went
say
to
that one more
Ghana
time.
one time, didn't he? That group.
Oh, you talking about? Yeah. You talking about Isreal? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. That's my young brother right there. So give a shout out to my mate, spiritual grandfather, Prince Asiel being Israel. That's him right there. You know what I mean? He made transition in 2022. He's the one that appointed me a prince. Now go back real quick, DJ Genesis, to Tucker, where he was about to get into the DNA question and then put back on my presentation.
Will use their whiteness as a way of promoting themselves, as a way of integrating themselves into whatever community they want to be in by removing themselves and separating themselves from some other community. I find that problematic.
It's a whole video it's going to go into it. Right.
I'm very confused. So that would suggest it's not ethnicity because you invalidate your Jewishness by converting to Christianity?
There are a number of Messianic Jews who live in Israel. Who are here.
I'm aware of,
I'm aware of that
number. But you're not contesting what I'm saying because it's a very famous court case.
The right of return has to do with your mother, your grandmother. It has to do with family ties.
Ethnic.
There's a lot of, sure, ethnicity is a big part of the right of return.
Great.
To make aliyah, then to come to Israel, to live here.
Then if both of your parents are Jewish and you have an ethnic right to the land, you are one of Abram's descendants, but you convert to Christianity, how is it you don't have the right to return? I'm totally confused.
But I know a number of people who have returned as Christians, but have Jewish history.
Are you saying that Jews who convert to Christianity have a right, a legal right to return? Because I
know that they do. Whether, when you say, do they have a right to return, do they prove?
It's a legal category, as in any government.
Which is by their family history, their grandmother, their mother, and there are many aspects of that.
I've read it. I think,
but I know that these are people who are Christian, and they came here, made aliyah. They had Jewish blood, Jewish history. They were Christian, Messianic, but they came here, and they were welcomed here.
And they were given full legal rights.
Absolutely.
And a passport.
Yeah.
So clearly, it's not true that you invalidate your right of return by converting to Christianity. That's just false.
I'm not aware of that. I know that there are a number of Christians here. I go to church with Christians every week here.
Of course. And do you have a right to come and say, I'm an ethnic Jew, even though I practice Christianity, therefore I have every bit as much right to move into a settlement in the West Bank or into East Jerusalem or anywhere I want, Galilee, anywhere, because I'm returning to the land of my forefathers. I have a legal right in the state of Israel, even though I've converted to Christianity. You're saying that's true?
I'm saying I know people who've done it. Now, can I tell you what the law specifically is? I'm not sure.
Well, it's really
I'm a Christian. I don't have any Jewish roots, so therefore I cannot quote you the law. If you want me to do that, I'll look at it.
Well, it really matters because you're saying, in fact, people in the United States are being called anti-Semites, a lot of them, including me, because they somehow don't believe that Israel has a right to this land.
Do you think Israel has a right to this land?
No, you haven't defined what the land is, and you haven't defined who Israel is, so I really don't know.
It is the land they're living in now, the borders that they have.
The borders are moving. The borders have moved in the last year.
I just had a rabbi give me an analogy. He said, look, imagine you left your home, and then someone came and occupied it, and then you try to get it back, and then they went to the judge. Have you heard some of these?
That you yourself just explained. And so I'm very confused as to why we don't do that. If you believe the theology that you've just explained to me.
Would we do that all over the world?
Well, this is the only country in the world that you've said has this covenant with God, that this people have a moral and legal right to the land.
What about people who convert to Judaism? Would they have a right?
Well, you've just said,
I mean, there are converts to Judaism, so
you just told
they
me,
can make aliyah. They may not have
You've just
DNA.
told me that it doesn't matter. You told me moments ago trying to keep track.
Okay.
That it doesn't matter whether or not you believe in God or whether or not you practice Torah Judaism or Rabbinic Judaism, which is something else that I don't even know if we should, I don't even know what that means, but it doesn't matter whether you're, quote, a religious Jew or not. What matters is that you are part of the Jewish people to whom God gave this land that extends from the Nile to the Euphrates. And so if you believe that, wouldn't you want to know with a burning passion who those people are? And because of science, we can now know who those people are. So why aren't we finding out?
I guess you could propose a DNA test for everybody who comes here, everybody who lives here. But
I'm comfortable with secular nation states where none of this is done on the basis of blood. I'm uncomfortable with that. I'll just say that.
But there are people who may not have bloodlines, but who have converted to Judaism. Are they going to be able to live here? Are you going to kick them out?
By your standards, they can't live here. Because you just told me that they have a right to live here because God gave them the land because they're the descendants of Abraham.
They're the descendants of Abraham. But if they're the spiritual descendants of Abraham and they've now decided that they're converting to Judaism, then do they have a right to live in Israel?
Well, there's a whole legal literature in Israel on that question. And my understanding is that certain types of modern Judaism qualify a person and other types don't. Is that your understanding? I don't believe that people converted, and I could have this wrong, but I know people who face this personally. People, I don't believe people who've converted in a Reform synagogue have the right of return. I don't think that is, because I know people who've married into Jewish families and they find out they don't have the right of return. So that is perplexing to me.
Yeah, I know, my experience is a little different than yours. I know people who have definite Jewish connections, family relations, but now they're Christian. Some are not necessarily practicing Jews. They're not, they're more secular Jews, as you've discussed, but they come back here.
Okay, I'm not against that. I'm just wondering, since you began this conversation by asking me, did I think they had a right to come here?
Yeah, that's
my question was, on what basis do they have the right? And you said because God granted it to them.
And I also said because that there should be a land where Jews can live in peace and safety.
And I asked you what a Jew was, and you couldn't answer it. You said it partly is religious, but it doesn't have to be. It's partly genetic, but it doesn't have to be. And so that you can see why I'm confused.
I think I was very clear that being Jewish is an identification either through blood or through faith that you're Jewish. It may be that you're a blood Jew, but you don't necessarily practice Judaism, just like there are people who say they're Christian, but they don't do a thing to demonstrate that Christian.
There are a lot of bad Christians, including me some of the time, a lot of the time. But I don't have a right to real estate on the basis of my claim of Christianity.
You don't have a right to real estate if you're talking about a specific parcel.
Shout out to my man. I see you, Lou Fu. He's a brother out here, makes some great beats, a lyrical MC, producer, manager. Shout out to Mex Cortez. They out here doing some powerful work from Tanzania, strong Tanzanian brothers. So yeah, they watching live right now with us. So they hit me up just now. They watching Alchemizing Energy. So the whole point is, and we need to get back to the presentation, DJ Genesis, because I don't want to